The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, it feels good, doesn't it? It feels so good. It's Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Sydney, Australia, and here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis, it's 10 p.m. Central Time. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is installment number 93. Also, and he doesn't know this, but it turns out that Jeff Meyer is our guest tonight. He and Jennifer Oliver O'Connell come on the third Wednesday of every month, and that would be 2 weeks from today. That's our 100th show, and I'm glad, he's our sponsor, so I'm really glad he's going to be here for that. The 100th show, 2 weeks from tonight. So, how you doing? There were primaries last night. We're going to talk to Jeff about that in a minute. Does anybody, I wrote in the show description, I don't know if you saw it, but nobody gives a fuck. Everyone knew what was going to happen. Actually, yeah. So, but let me tell you what we got going on here. Now we got a lot going on. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank Linda Salvin for last night. She is psychic. She came on. Great conversation. Talked to her for an hour. Could have talked to her for 3 hours. Honest to God, it was just fascinating. Woman's she was in a plane crash, a really bad one, really famous one. She was in a car accident. She's and it's just what an interesting story. That's all I can say. It's like, yeah, very interesting and very, very kind of her to join us. Very, very kind. Tonight, like I said, Jeff Meyer, the CEO and publisher of CONK News, is joining us for his monthly foray into the news. Tomorrow, we got the State of the Union, our panel. It's the month in review panel. I kind of call them the pooper panel because it's basically 4 old guys who are wearing the pens. Who are we getting? We're not getting anybody. All right, so that's tomorrow night. So we're coming on tomorrow night right after the State of the Union. Larry Newman writes me today and says, "Are we waiting for the Republican response?" No, we're not going to wait. No, we're coming on right after. We are the Republican response, okay? And we're not Republicans, but still, you just look at it that way. So Joe's going to talk. They're saying it's going to be relatively short, and that's because we know what happens. The drugs wear off after 45 minutes, and they don't want to go there. They don't. So, honest to God, I'm not kidding. I'm guessing it will be 45 minutes or less. That's my guess for that very reason, because they know what's going on there. We've all seen this before. Every single time the guy has to talk more than an hour, around 45 minutes into it, he starts to fade. And he starts mumbling and bumbling and and that's the last thing they need. So, okay. So next Tuesday, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell is coming on alone. Now, the reason she's coming on is she wrote a piece on Red State about nutrition and health that I specifically want to talk to her about. The subject will be nutrition and basically healthcare in the United States and how it's also completely fucked up, and it is. Case in point, this was in her article about the fact that, she says, and I know she's right, I know this, that doctors, basically tell women not to eat a lot of protein. Bullshit. It's bullshit, And everyone says, well, you eat too much protein. Yeah, I eat plenty of protein. My gut works great. My health's relatively good. Okay, so they put in a new heart valve 3 years ago, but still, Also, I'm not going to bore you with that, but there were specific reasons my heart kind of went to hell. I was misdiagnosed for something else, and basically the medication for that misdiagnosis sent me for a loop. That's the reason that happened. So other than that, I'm good. My mother, she's 6 months away from 100 years old. Everyone, whatever. I don't care. Seriously, I don't care. If I die here doing this show, really, if I drop down on the desk, that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's bad. Okay, am I still on? Okay. That's next Tuesday. On Wednesday, David Strom is joining us from hotair.com, associate editor there. He's been writing a lot of pieces, and he joins me in being really, really critical of the mainstream media. I mean, I can sit here and I can bitch about the government covering up the UFOs. I can bitch about the fact that the government's, the political climate is completely full of shit. But at the end of the day, to me, the real culprit here is the media, because they're supposed to be, like Trump said just last night, they're supposed to be the policemen of America. They're the policemen of our society, and they're completely, not only are they failing, they've basically abdicated. They've they've thrown in with the criminals, you know and we want to talk to him about that, because he's writing some very, very eloquent stuff. That's Wednesday. Next Monday, the 18th, we're taking off. I have a doctor's appointment. Blah, 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 blah. And so you're wondering, yeah, it's not at 10 o'clock at night. It isn't. But sometimes they give me some weird drugs, and I kind of go for a loop, and I don't want to deal with that. So we're just going to forget it. All right, Tuesday the 19th. That's a week from a week from Tuesday, not this coming Tuesday, but a week from Tuesday. Les for Less is joining us. He's the founder of the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. It's basically a support group for people that say they've been abducted by aliens. And okay, you can laugh, but that's the reason they're there, is they're tired of people laughing at them. So they actually get people actually listen to them. Les himself has written a book called Unknown Other, and that book is compiles mostly of stories from his clients. And I've read most of the book at this point. I finished it. It's some of these stories, man, that are just wild, as Carson would say, wild, weird stuff. It's really amazing. I mean, some of them are almost don't make any sense, really. But I is every one of these people telling the truth? No. Are some of them? Yes, that's what I think, and that proves the phenomena to me. I mean, I have a friend of mine who says that every single person who talks about this is lying. I do not believe that at all. I don't. Now, there's a possibility, like John Mack, the Harvard psychologist, said, there's a possibility that they truly believe this happened to them and it didn't, that they're under some sort of hallucination, or that some people have even said the hallucination is actually generated by the ETs. They generate these hallucinations. They're basically what's called screen memories. So in other words, it's real to you, but it didn't really happen. But that still has something to do with extraterrestrials. So I don't know. And we're talking to him. That's a week from this coming Tuesday. Wednesday, as I said, a week from Wednesday, or 2 weeks from tonight, it's our 100th show. And we have Jennifer Oliver O'Connell and Jeff Meyer scheduled for that. That's their standard. They come on together as the dynamic duo. And like I said, Jennifer's coming on the week before too, to specifically talk about the nutrition stuff. April 25th, that's next month. Yeah, I know it's far, but still. Kathleen Martin is coming on, the niece of Betty Hill. Betty and Barney Hill were the first people in America. It's the first basically documented alien abduction, basically. And you may be sitting home listening and saying, Jim, it's not documented. No, there was actually some physical proof available. And also there was what Stan Friedman for years said was the smoking gun. That basically he said it proved the phenomena. And I've talked I've said previously what that is. I'm not going to right now, but we'll talk about that with her. Looking forward to talking to her. So we're batting way, way above our pay grade here, folks. I mean, I have to say that the guests we're getting are pretty cool. So, Okay, so you can call into the show tonight. Jeff's camera is on, but it's not. I don't know if it's working. So I'm gonna try putting him on a second. Okay, well, you can call in and talk to him. You can call in via webcam. There's down here. It's like right here. See? Okay. Gemini.com/call. You point your browser to that um, page. You push the big button at the top of the screen, and you should be in the queue for this is for a webcam call. We are the first talk show in America, according to Talker Magazine, to take video phone calls. And yeah, I know. Who would believe it? Little old us, but we are. But now you can call on with just regular cell phone if you just want to call, like you're calling a radio station. That's this number right here, 563-999-3435. 563-999-3435. You talk to a sexy British lady at Blog Talk Radio. She'll put you in the queue. You can listen to the show until I put you on. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, and then your face isn't on the screen, so and you can be the trolling bastard that you are. And finally, you can text me while the show's on in real time at 408-458-5088. That's 408-458-5088. Those of you who know the area code system in the United States, yes, that's an area code for Silicon Valley. It is. Yeah. And if you text me, I will get the text right here on the screen. I got a little screen here off to the side where I got texts and phone calls, and then right in front of me, I have the video calls. That's the way it works. Just incredible, isn't it? So, without any further ado, I think those were all the announcements I wanted to make. Our show is sponsored by CONK News, and Jeff Meyer is the publisher and CEO of CONK News. And we'll do a little commercial for that at the end of the segment, but we're gonna run the 12-second bumper here. We're gonna try to put him on. Let's see what happens. Hello, you're there.
I'm alive.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened there. Your little avatar kind of went screwy. I wasn't sure if you were there or not. So, but you're there.
That's not the only thing screwy around here.
Oh, you're sitting in Minnesota. Let's get right to it. You want to talk about last night?
Yeah. You mean the big, whatever they call it? I didn't do it. Whatever they had last night, I didn't go.
Well, I didn't either. You know why? Because my 99-year-old mother went to vote, and she said, they said to her, do you want a Republican or Democrat ballot? And she said, why do you guys need to know that? And they're off to the races.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. She showed up at 99.5. That's the good thing.
That's what I think too. I agree. But I specifically want to address the fact that here in Minnesota, Biden did not get 20% of the vote. 20% of the people said I'm committed. That's not good. That's not a good look.
Yeah, Dean Phillips is here, and so maybe I don't know. He must have been on that ballot, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he got
he didn't even catch those votes.
7% or something like that. He dropped out today too. Probably.
Sure.
I don't know if you saw the show description for the show. It says Haley is out, Jeff Meyer's in.
That's right.
That's right. That's what's that.
Boy, she just wouldn't go away. So I have a couple things to start with.
Oh yeah, please.
Are you on the same drug regimen as Joe Biden? Is that why you're worried about the 18th? You'll be 45 minutes into it and fall apart.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, no, I got 90 minutes out of mine. I can do this 90 minutes and then I start to fall apart. That's what happens.
I think if the Republicans are smart tomorrow, they shouldn't yell stuff at them and try to get him confused, but they should do extended clapping. So he has to go like 55 to 60 minutes. Just stand there and just keep clapping. No one can bitch at you.
No, Jeff, you're not the only person who said this. There's a lot of other
rude.
Right.
Yeah, the goal of the Republicans, now they won't think that, they think on a rail to hell. They never think off the rail.
No.
And so if I was a Republican, senator or in the House, I would be spreading the word at least another 15 to 20 seconds of every clap. And we clap for everything. We stand up for everything. This stupid stuff of sitting down, staying sat down. I would stand up and clap. Just add, because his people will panic.
Yeah, they
Because what
will.
do? Send someone out there to whisper?
That's
Like,
right.
when we give you the signal, start talking again so they sit down. No, the Republicans should stand up and clap a minimum of 20 seconds and screw with their schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what they're pumping into his butt. Somebody said it was Excedrin.
At CONK.com, Hot Air has an article close to the top of the feed by David Strom, Shrinkflation versus Corporate Greed. And they're worried that Joey's going to bring back price controls. Well, if you didn't know history, you should look up what the government did in America in the 70s with price controls.
Hold it. But just said, you're a business wizard. Does anybody think that worked? Nobody. No.
But play this out, and Strom does a great job in this article. I didn't get through the whole thing, but really, what this sets is the government, the Biden administration, is going to go after these liberally run American corporations. I mean, someone should sit down with these guys and say, we got to think this through. They're not going to come after any privately held companies. They're talking about going after healthcare, prescription drugs, food, grocery, housing, financial services. That's all BlackRock. That's black. I mean, corporate America is the worst thing for Americans because it's just the biggest fraud put on the American worker. And so I'm like, do this. Go after Target and Frito-Lay and Doritos and Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and just go after all those big, huge corporations that feed the Democrat Party big money with saying, we got to fix the price of a case of Diet Coke.
Right. That's right.
The Democrat Party, they just don't. All I can say is if folks out there go to CONK, CONK.com, and check out the David Strom article on Hot Air about price controls. It's a picture of Uncle Joe. It's beautiful. I mean, you can't make it up.
Yeah, I know if you caught this. He's coming on Wednesday.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
I know. He's great guy, and great writer. Fantastic.
Just a great mind, and he gets it out on paper. It's beautiful.
Hey, and so talking about the liberals being full of shit. So have you seen this thing about the fact in San Francisco the populace voted in 4 wide-ranging measures that are basically non-progressive yesterday, and today the San Francisco Chronicle puts in the newspaper that I don't know if it was on their opinion page or on the front page. They said, well, we're basically not a progressive city anymore. And I'm thinking, well, here's the problem. You're either is your ideology more important than actually solving the problems?
Yes, it is. They've proven that.
Yeah. I find this. I don't know. Am I just a naive little boy? Well, how can people be so stupid, Jeff? Tell me.
Well, and the thing is, the pain level is at we got to make a change.
Yeah.
So, and it's across the spectrum. You can't hide from this inflation. And I'm a loyal Morning Joe guy, and
hey, did you see it this morning?
Oh yes.
Apparently, he just went off the rails.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh yeah. He's usually about, it starts in Minnesota at 5 a.m. So about by 5:30, between 5:25 and 5:45, he starts to say how stupid that some of the electorate is. And I'm just like, you're good, dude. Like he's like Joe. He can hold it together for so long, his namesake, and then he goes to hell.
Right. No, it's true. I know. I know
Oh
that.
yeah, he's just been railing on people. How stupid could you be to want this train wreck called Trump? But before we get any deeper in politics, I want to reiterate, we never landed on the moon, and I have more proof.
Okay,
Right?
please go ahead.
We sent something up to the moon 55 years later. It landed cockeyed.
Yeah,
Now
upside down.
right? Now they
Yeah.
can find your ass anywhere on this planet. They can see shit 17 light years away. But supposedly this new technology landed cockeyed, and then you're supposed to believe that they landed basically an aluminum can, and people jumped out of it and walked around, jumped back in it, and flew back here.
Yeah.
No, it was a studio set in New Mexico, and this is just more proof.
Well,
We
you have
never
a
went
point
to
there,
the moon.
Jeff. It's not just that this thing landed upside down. Everything that anybody sent there the last 50 years has basically crashed. This is the first one that hasn't. Like so,
Right.
and we did, and so we in 1969 we're sending people on the moon. First of all, we don't have any computers. There's no computers.
No,
they're using
they're using a freaking sextant out there aiming to get their bearings.
a slide rule. They're using slide rules. So we got there without computers, and so now 55 years later, I have a huge computer in my pocket. Well, not that, and we still can't do it.
No. And we're supposed to believe they landed there, jacked around a couple times, hitting a golf ball and shit, and then got back. No, it's and again, the basis of me never believing as I've aged that they landed there, it was too big of a risk. Even if they wanted to, that would have been too big of a risk to take. You got a 1 in a billion chance of this thing going off perfect, which it did on TV, and then what happened?
No
way.
There's been a rumor going around. Of course, the big rumor is that you're right, that we never actually went. There's an opposing rumor now that we actually went privately, secretly, a month ahead of time to make certain we could do it. And I actually I'd buy that.
No way. So so the first, you still have the same amount of risk the second time.
You would. It's if you wouldn't embarrass yourself. You'd kill a bunch of people, but
you don't have all, it isn't like the older I get, the more I doubt anything that I've been taught, told, or just because the media has been in the pocket of the government for a long, long time. And
50 years, basically.
They pull us by the nose around and say, look over here, don't look there. They pit us against each other. They're evil because they're lazy.
Jeff, I'm totally with you. The older I get, the more I don't believe anything. I mean, it's like, I can't even stress to the public, the people watching. It's like at this point, I basically don't believe anything the government's told me. Perfect example, case in point. So this guy who supposedly was the whistleblower regarding this stuff, and so they've arrested him because they said he made up the story. I doubt he made it up. They arrested him because they want to get rid of him. I mean, I don't. I just don't trust them. I don't at all.
Glenn Beck had an FBI guy on, I think it was Monday of this week, Monday or Tuesday. And Glenn said, Jesus, this whistleblower got arrested, and they were going through it. And this guy basically said, because he was a whistleblower himself. He says, the first 25 seconds of this interview where they sit down, you say, you ready to go? Yep. The recorder's on. Okay. They run through all the shit you're going to lose, like 3 weeks paid vacation, 20 days of sick leave, all this stuff. And then, okay, do you want to still go through with this? And he says, a lot of people, their spouses say, we're not giving that up. Just shut your mouth and keep your job. It's $150,000 and you get a government pension. I mean, and so he cracked open more of that. What we've talked about for years is how do they keep these people silent? Like everything, the fear of going broke.
Yeah. And especially for people, I've always bitched and moaned about people in the media like Scarborough who are just plainly lying through their teeth. But if I never had children. And so I've started to had to relook at this. If you have a family to support, like I've used this example not a lot, Nicole Wallace on MSNBC. I've been told by people that know her that she doesn't believe a single thing she says on television. It's all complete bullshit to her. But she just had a baby. She has 3 other kids or something like that. If your primary job on the planet is to support your family, right? And they're literally probably paying her $2 million a year.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, if you're supporting your family at $2 million a year, you're not gonna fucking fuck that up,
No,
You just
no,
aren't.
because you're not going out and finding a $3 million job the next day.
No.
I mean, you're going backwards really quick. And again, the moon landing is doubtful to me. And again, the older you get, the more this stuff kind of you start to connect the dots. I mean, I just think of when you think of the government, they're only concerned about themselves and not your welfare. You cheat on the taxes and they come after you. I mean, the IRS they'll get their pound of flesh. If your family's affected by a border jumper, they don't give a shit.
No,
it was you.
Don't.
It didn't cost them any tax revenue.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's what people have to just keep reminding. Democrats aren't our enemy. The enemy is this government system, and we just look at it differently. And so as long as they keep us fighting and bitching to each other and saying, you just don't understand. And it's more or less the conversations between now and election with anyone who's thinking of voting for Joe Biden is you just have to, I take this IVF, this in vitro fertilization. I think of 2 lines forming, right? You got the IVF line and you got the abortion line. This is America to me in a nutshell. I got to grab my note here. I wrote this last week knowing I was going to be on with you. So here in the IVF line, people are going to waste this resource called money. It's expensive to get knocked up through IVF, right?
Right.
And then in the abortion line, we're wasting this human life, right? So you got these 2 lines. One's going in to try to get pregnant. One's pregnant trying to kill it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is so American. In the line with the IVF, no one's standing there going, why is this happening? And in the abortion line, it's like, why are people still getting pregnant? I mean, everyone knows how to avoid it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And then in the end, the IVF is like when we were young, if you got near a girl, you'd knock her up. That everyone was walking around with straight swimming sperm and very healthy, fertile eggs.
Yes.
So the IVF line is full of people that have been on birth control forever, and now they think they can turn it off, turn it on. Where's that studied? What's that effect? And the other thing is all this chemicals that they have us consuming because we're in America. Half the food here you can't get in Europe because they don't let it over there because they think it's hard on the people.
Right. Right.
And then in the abortion line, those people are standing there, especially the minorities. And if you said, who's Margaret Sanger, they wouldn't have a clue. And Margaret Sanger was the founder of Planned Parenthood. She wanted to eliminate Negroes. She wrote it. That was her lifelong goal because her mom got beat up by some bums. And her goal was if we get rid of the downtrodden, no one will get beat up.
And Jeff, I want to stop you for a second. I want to point out to people watching, that's not an exaggeration. That was exactly what she thought. I mean, you're not, this is common knowledge, basically. So nobody
want to help me just, get off Twitter or Facebook and look up Margaret Sanger.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton won the Margaret Sanger Award.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like saying we're trying to win the frickin' KKK award. I mean, to be a white politician and the black community not saying we're fucking done with you because you won the Margaret Sanger Award is just illiteracy that our government has kept everyone at this dumb level. You've got your phone, get on the Google. You don't, it's just Margaret Sanger. Spell it right, spell it wrong. It's going to pop up.
And what she was specifically espousing was something called eugenics, which for lack of a better term was basically we should kill the minorities, exterminate them to improve quality of life. That's basically what it was.
And her thing was, I know we can't kill the existing ones. We just don't want them to be able to have any more kids.
That's right. That's what eugenics was. We can't murder people, but we can keep them from reproducing. Right?
Yeah. So just you'll just burn out of that race.
Yeah.
In America, she didn't care if they were in Africa. She didn't want them in America.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that's one of these. This is one of those conversation pieces you just have to have if someone's coming after you about, oh, you're a Republican, you're going to lose because of this IVF thing. My response to people now is, well, do you know who Margaret Sanger is? And when they say no, then I say, I would look her up and see what she has done and created, and then tell me if you're really if that's really a woman's choice. It's an excuse to exterminate a baby.
I just read something just recently, and unfortunately I can't retrieve it, of where someone was saying the exact same thing you were talking about. They were saying the same thing, like you have to look up Margaret Sanger. Exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, don't be illiterate. That's what the government wants. It wants you worrying about, are the Timberwolves going to be in the playoffs and the Wild really suck?
Yeah.
The Viking season's over, but here comes a draft. Cut all that fucking smoke out of your life. Get educated. Spend 20 minutes a day on your phone checking out history.
So, I had a woman on last night named Linda Salvin, and she's a professional psychic. And so she was telling me about a book. I actually bought it today. The book's called Stolen Identity, and the book is written by somebody who claims that they're actually John F. Kennedy Jr. Not Kennedy the president, but his 3-year-old son, right? And he says that he was swapped with another child because of his father's murder or something like that. And I mean, the story it's like one of these classic conspiracy theories where you think, well, that's just not going to happen. But my problem, Jeff, just like you said, is I've seen so much shit go down now in the last few years that I'm willing to believe virtually anything.
Yes.
I'm not going to doubt this guy. I'm going to read his story, and I'm actually going to try to have him on. His name now is David Quigley, but I want to get him on the show. It's like, I have no, that's, 20 years ago, I would have said that's nuts. Now I'd say, no, maybe, I don't know, might not be nuts.
You wouldn't put it past our government.
Right.
To do
I wouldn't.
That.
Exactly.
Right. They're fully capable of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been interesting the last couple of weeks is watching the rise of the return of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Right. It's on a march. And it went, from its all-time high of like 69,000 down to 63 a couple days ago.
It's still pretty high though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's up. It looks like it's not coming down. And again, I think this is a predictor of, like, the BlackRocks are afraid of the downside of this Biden economy, like price controls. Traditionally, you would get into a hard asset like gold or silver, but they're not functional. I mean, you can't go to your doctor and say, I don't have any cash, but I have this bar of gold. Get your scale out so I can pay you.
Yeah. Right.
Because you'll get it out of your pocket and the doctor will hit you in the head and now you won't have any gold.
I'm glad you brought this up and I don't want to dwell on this because I'm afraid I'm going to bore people. But, you and I have talked, Bitcoin came out about 17 years ago now. For the entire time, I've been saying it's complete bullshit because it's neither currency nor commodity. It doesn't fit any one of those things. But now I'm starting to think that maybe I'm wrong. Because you're right. Because the thing is, okay, so you can park your money in gold or silver, right? But the reason you do that is because gold and silver are actually valuable for pragmatic purposes. You build shit out of it, electronics, all sorts of crap. Gold has been one of the most useful things on the planet for like 10,000 years. But like you said, what if people aren't going to take gold in exchange? You know?
It's just, you got it. It's not something that you can transact simple transactions like I need some food, bring it up and get your scale out. That's just
So if you're going to park your money somewhere, well, what's wrong? I'm starting to think what's wrong with this invisible thing that doesn't do anything, you know? I mean,
right.
I mean, the weird thing is, and you know way more about money than I do, but in some ways I was never wrong. But on the other hand, this thing has evolved to the point where this is where people like just basically stash their money. It's just a place to put it, you know?
And you can buy stuff with Bitcoin.
Right,
There's
you can.
people that take Bitcoin.
That's
And
right,
so,
there are. Correct,
you
right,
know,
yeah.
and
it's
that's the
not
other thing
run-
the government doesn't like is they say they can't see it. We know they can.
That's exactly what I was going to say, though, but they're not running it. They still don't run
Right.
it, you know? So,
Right.
I mean, they want to fucking run everything. I mean, we're at the fucking precipice of 1984. I mean, it's like
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And again, these are just indicators. Like, why isn't gold surging as fast as Bitcoin? Right? Gold is creeping up, but it's not taking any large jumps because I think people are realizing, how am I going to use it?
Yeah, right.
How the hell do I get a gallon of gas with a gold Cougaran?
Nothing is
What do I get back and change?
Nothing is more stupid and maybe evil than the government trying to come up with digital currency. I mean, basically, we already have it. It's called the dollar. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, the reason Bitcoin exists to get away from the dollar. You know, so if they're going to start a digital dollar, oh, big fucking deal. You know, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, and then they're just going to track my purchases. That's what they're going to do. You know, I don't know. It's just,
which they already do. I mean, that's why the funny thing about the Fannie Willis trial is, you know, is the IRS knocking on her door now after she paid her buddy off in $17,000 in cash?
well, I don't know. She's a Democrat, so probably not.
Yeah. Well, she cooked her own goose because she thought she was smart.
Yes,
and
that's
what's so beautiful. She doesn't understand how the system works. First of all, you don't admit you paid them in cash until you talk to your accountant and say, I got to testify. How do I explain this? They would have given you better words than, oh, I had the money in my house. Oh, okay. Where did that come from? You got a printer or you take it out of your bank? Plus, the Trump side only had to prove that they might have done this. They didn't have to prove they did do it. It's just, you know, the impropriety or whatever they call it.
Preponderance of evidence, I think, is what you're looking for.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
So, I mean, it was like you're going to fall in a manhole thinking you're putting at a golf course. You know? I mean, that's the visual. There's a big hula hoop around you. You're screwed.
I don't want to see her hula hoop, though. I don't want to see it.
Amen.
The people in her office are saying that is actually her personal problem, is that she thinks she's way smarter than she really is. And it's pretty.
Well, and we all get over our skis. Let's face it, right?
Yeah,
but to have to divulge it on national TV that's hard on your soul.
Everything's relative, though. I mean, yeah, we all think we're better than we are, but some people think they're a lot better than they are. You know, I mean, God.
Yes,
it's crazy. I'm just astonished by people who think they can get away with shit. I don't know why. It's just like,
especially like shit on your cell phone. I mean, if Bill Clinton would have said, "Yep, I was tinkering around with the help," he wouldn't have had all these problems. He wouldn't have had that
Oh,
problem, right?
absolutely.
They would
Jeff,
have said, "Oh boy,
I've often said that if Nixon had gotten up that day after the Watergate break-in and said, "Look, these guys broke into the Watergate DNC headquarters. I didn't know about it." Apparently, he truly didn't. He didn't know
right,
what was happening. He said, "I didn't know about it. We're going to prosecute this to the full extent of the law. I'm really sorry. Nobody would have ever thought about it ever again."
right, yes."
It's like, no, you're right. It's the fucking cover-up that always gets you. It's like shit.
It's that human nature of it's the Adam. I didn't really eat the apple. Well, where are you then? You're hiding.
It's in my butt. I put it in my butt. It's
So,
terrible.
how excited are you that are you excited or sad that Nikki Haley dropped out?
I got nothing. My only thing is I don't see why she stayed in for that long. I understand why she stayed into South Carolina. It's her home state, but you can't win in your home state. You're screwed. I mean, that's the thing. I should think she should have dropped out then. So, no, I'm more fascinated what's happening on the Democrat side, because for a guy who's president, relatively speaking, I don't think Joe did that well. I mean, he did totally clean up and win, but I mean,
Yeah.
like there's 20%, 25% missing here, 20% some other state or something like that. I mean, there were quite a few places where he didn't crack 80%, and that's weird.
Right. Right. His people aren't enthusiastic about him.
No. Well, that's the thing, and here's my conspiracy theory about the 2020 election. I've always said this is the crowds he drew or the lack of them. He's still not. People still don't show up to see this guy talk. He's the president of the United States.
He stinks like an old guy.
He goes down to the border. Brownsville, Texas. What, about 100 people show up? I mean, God, it's crazy. Right. And meanwhile, Trump steps out of a car and people go nuts.
Right. Yeah.
I still can't buy the fact he got 81 million votes. I just can't buy it. I can't reconcile, and I understand Tim Conaway, he disagrees with me, and he said, well, Jim, you have to understand, people didn't vote for Biden, they voted against Trump. But fucking everybody?
Right. Yeah. They'd be like us in the primary. Screw it, I ain't gonna go.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't go.
So if someone else cast their ballot, then okay. Someone voted against Trump, but it wasn't the person whose ballot it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
what I love now is though the mea culpa all these people are going to have, because Trump's coming and he's going to come. I think I listened to his speech last night from Mar-a-Lago. I mean, he wasn't as bombastic, he could have done a few things a little different, but again, he was speaking off the cuff. He didn't have a teleprompter. So he can be Trump. Trumpism doesn't bother me because only Trump can pull that off. You couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. We don't have the experience of his life to act like that. He does.
Right. That's right.
But I thought the most beautiful thing was that Mitch McConnell today said he would endorse Trump, right?
Yeah, I know.
And so I looked it up. I found Politico had reported on February 13th, 2021, the gobbler, Mitch McConnell, said that practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of that day at the Capitol insurrection.
Yeah.
He was talking about Trump.
Right.
There's no question about it. The people who stormed this building believe they were acting on the wishes and instructions of their president. Mitch McConnell referred to President Trump as their president. And now he's representing his party. And so I think all those people are going to get flushed out of the system, which they should. I mean, again, the politicians aren't the problem. It's the bureaucrats. They hold the government.
Jeffrey, that's the fear, isn't it? These guys don't want Trump in office because they're afraid he's going to dismantle the system. I mean, that's,
and they should fear that.
Yeah, and he's probably
we should praise that.
Say again?
We should praise that that's
Oh, yeah.
what they're thinking, because he doesn't have to do it. If he just creates enough fear, you don't have to spank all the kids that are screwing up. You just got to spank a couple, and the rest of them get in line.
Yeah.
So,
right.
He can get rid of the Department of Education, National Public Radio. I mean, he can just take his a surgeon's knife and just cut a few things, and he should be able to get the rest of them to march in line. And we aren't going to get John Bolton, Nikki Haley, those kind of slobs in his administration. They're going to be punchers, and that's what you need.
Yeah, so you sounds like I'm going to change subject here, but I'm actually not. This thing with the Google AI thing, that completely went off the rails. And forget, I don't know if I sent you this today or not. I thought I did, maybe did, but I'm not sure. So some guy wrote an article for some website called Pirate Wire, and he did a deep dive on this. First of all, I didn't know this. Google has 150,000 employees, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because he said he interviewed several people at Google who said that this company was so stuffed to the gills, you could fire half the people and nothing would change at all. And we all know how bureaucracies work. I'm sure he's right. But the question was, or the thing he was reporting on, is the fact that even with all the debacle that went down on this AI thing, the people who are running it still don't really get why they don't understand that it failed. He said he said that they think, after talking to them, he concluded that they think their problem is that they insulted black people because they had Nazis that were black and Asian. They think that's the problem.
Sure.
Yeah. So you have
it produced. It's not that it produced, right? It was the result, and it wasn't the process of how it got there.
Right.
It wasn't that their programming caused that. It was that end result.
Absolutely correct, and that's actually kind of the point, because he then went through. I mean, I'm a programmer, but I don't know shit about this. He went through exactly how that thing works. There's several layers. There's literally DEI layers in it, where it checks to make certain that the query is not insulting or altered. And he said, the thing, it runs at the speed of light, so no one ever sees this, but it plows through all this code just to make certain that what it's going to output is kosher. It's like apparently it's ridiculous.
Well, and we've experienced that ourselves in different ventures we've been in, that you turn these things out to the public, 30% are excited to have it. 70% that know what they're doing are trying to break it. Yeah. And they're going to test it right away and put this shit against it to see what it can produce. And I'm sure the person that put that the Q in to get whatever they, to get this thing to do the African-American Nazi Japanese thing, Asian thing, they're just sitting there key clicking and like, oh, let's see what happens. And all of a sudden, yeah, voila. Boy, that wasn't too hard. It did it in 14 seconds.
Yeah.
We've had that experience with Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, we were talking before, and I don't know if I announced this on the show, so we're not on Facebook again tonight. Last night, Facebook told us about a half an hour before I went on the air that they were going to cancel, they're banning my account, and they didn't give me a reason. Now today they gave me a reason. They said the reason is because I'm a fake person. They said your account isn't real. You're not a real person. And somehow they did some looking into it. I didn't even have to do anything other than appeal the decision, and they came back and said, "Okay, you're real." But they've reinstated my account, but not the page that runs the show. Not yet, anyway. I don't know. Okay, so, and I don't think we're talking about school here. So about 3 years ago, you and I worked on a little project called Snap Your Vote. And you had a great idea. The idea was that people should take a picture of their vote to have a record of it, like of their ballot. So you go into the little voting booth and you fill out your ballot, and then you take a picture with your phone of your ballot. Okay. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. Okay. First of all, it turns out we didn't know this, but in some states that's illegal.
It's illegal.
It's illegal, but we didn't know at the time, and Facebook didn't know it either. So you said, Jim, can you put a page up? I said, yeah, sure. So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm working on this. And literally while I'm working on it, I get a message pops up that says, "No, we're going to can this page." It's not even done. I haven't even published it yet. Somebody's literally watching me do this, and I said, "No, you can't do it." And I'm thinking, "Well, what?" At first, it was just so disconcerting. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the middle of doing it, and then oh no, and then I appealed it and said, "Okay, tell me what we did wrong here." And about 2 days later, they got back and said, "Oh, nothing."
It's still up. It's still a Facebook page.
Is it still up? I don't even know.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Snap your
Even though
vote.
it turns out what nobody knew is that in some states that is actually illegal.
Yeah, it was because
didn't know that either.
Yeah, the unions were telling people that they wanted to have a record of how they voted. And so they were telling people, you got to get a picture of your ballot so we make sure you're voting the way the union wants you to. And they're like, yeah. I mean, they said employers, but
yeah,
we know who that was putting the heavy on them. So yeah, anyway,
so,
stamp your vote is controversial.
Yes, it is. I guess it's, I've told you this. So this is our 93rd show. We've been flagged for information on YouTube 5 times so far. Like, what the fuck?
It's the only place I watch the other shows I'm not on, just so that there's a number on YouTube. Like, yep.
Yeah.
I watch it in the morning on the replay, and because there's some 25-year-old there just tearing his hair out. Like,
oh yeah.
What kind of asshole is this Jeff Meyer to watch this show in the morning?
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. He's 26 years old. He's a social justice warrior, and he's going to change the world.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yep. He might get mugged coming out of a bar in some
but that's not his problem.
No. He'll say, I didn't say, why would you pick on me?
And he talks that way too.
Yeah. I was thinking today, remember when you had to give your phone number? I mean, think of what the government did to commerce. Like, you had to line up to get the hell into a Target or something. 2 people come out, 2 more can go in. Remember that during the COVID shit?
Yes. It was all bullshit.
Yeah, I was thinking about just the people that would conform with that. I was at a Menards today, and fuck, you could have had a bowling league in there and not hurt anyone.
Oh, really?
These massive stores, and there's maybe 100 cars with the employees in the and I'm thinking, what a bunch of bullshit that they got away with. And so I remember back when you were going into a restaurant, right? They'd say, can we get your name and phone number? And so I would always say I was Tim Walz, who's the governor of Minnesota. And I'd give the number 651-201-3400. I figured, if someone had the cough in the restaurant, they were going to call the fucking governor's office, to let everyone know, hey, is Tim Walz there? We want to let him know he's mad. So I'm thinking about this driving away from that Menards, and I'm thinking, there was probably 4 really good friends that I had dinner with during that period. And I didn't, when we'd stand in line, they'd like, the hostess would say, can I get a name and phone number? And I'd say, yeah, Tim Walz, 651-201-3400. And I mean, I had 2 friends bust out laughing, and the hostess had no clue, didn't, obviously I don't look like Tim Walz. I'm the same age as him. I had one friend get irate, and he's telling the server, that's not his name. That's not his phone number. And she's like all freaking confused. And I'm thinking, how did we get to that point? And we're not, and so that's already implanted.
Yeah.
When we get to the table, and I'm like, geez, that really shook you up. He goes, well, that's not what this is about. I said, well, what the fuck if they call you and said someone sneezed 3 booths over? What are you going to do about it?
Jeff, I don't want to hear any man at this point say, that what you did wasn't right. Oh, bullshit. It's like women do that stuff.
I fucking laughed my ass off every time I did it. I was like, please have someone with the cough here. so that the governor's office gets a call like, hey, were you at the Applebee's in Maplewood, Minnesota? Because we have you on the list and we're calling everyone because there was a confirmed contact. I don't know if it ever happened because they didn't call me.
Jeff, one of my friends would give out my name and number.
Yes.
He did that for like 2 years.
Why wouldn't you? They said, can we get a name and phone number? They didn't say, I need your name. Show me your ID.
Right. No. I'm Jim Peters.
I mean, did you see that article with these 320,000 people they flew into the U.S.?
This is unbelievable. I mean, I
mean, that's why if they say do this, you give your state governor's name and phone number.
Yes.
Because you try to fly into the U.S. without a fucking passport, and you ain't getting off. You aren't getting on the airplane on the one side, but you're sure not getting off.
Jeffrey, I'm glad you brought this up because there is no better example of why you shouldn't flip the government off than this. This is terrible. I mean, it's like, and they did it to literally so they didn't have to count them going through the border. I mean, it's like unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's just so last night, Bill O'Reilly was on a panel on News Nation, and he said, just had an offhand remark. He said, well, Joe Biden is going to go down in history. And I've said the same thing next to James Buchanan as the second worst president we've ever had. And they were apoplectic. They just thought, no, that's just wrong. Well, no, look at the shit they're doing.
Yeah.
And this is Riley's point of view, and he's right about this. So, somebody asked him, I was listening to Hannity, and Hannity asked him, what about Carter? He said, well, Carter ended up about maybe in the bottom 10. But the difference between Carter and Biden is that Carter was largely the result of circumstance. He was in a bad place at a bad time, more or less. He made some bad decisions too, but still.
Right. But he didn't do it continuously and willfully.
Right. That's exactly the point. Biden has actually caused all these problems.
Yes.
He's actually caused them, all of them.
He took out his hit list from the last 40 years of being in the government and said, if I ever get to be president, I'm going to pull this shit off, never knowing what the effect would be.
Not caring.
He pulled it off.
Right.
And hold on, my camera went dead.
Well, your camera's on, your light is off. There you go.
And so am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. And so that's why, Biden is, I mean, unfortunately, we have to live through it. But fortunately, we are living through it, so we can be the ones that get to say, do you remember when Joe Biden was president?
Yeah.
His people are saying, well, your people's wages went up 3%. And inflation only went up 3%. So they're kind of holding their own. Well, hold on. It went up 20% 2 years ago. So if you got 3 times 3 times 3, you're still screwed. You're 8% behind.
Yeah.
I mean, so you didn't gain any ground. Plus all these new taxes that are in, especially in Minnesota. There's a 1% sales tax added for metro housing, affordable metro housing.
Oh, thank you. That's good. I need that.
If you're close to the Wisconsin border, spend the $3 of gas for the extra 20 miles and drive over to Wisconsin. Their sales tax is only 5.5%. And if Minnesotans were smart, anyone within 40 minutes of the border would do that on the weekends. Flood those stores.
They're gaslighting everybody. I mean, they're saying this stuff where it's either true but completely out of context or simply not true. You know? I mean, some of these employment statistics are technically real, but the thing is, first of all, 25% of the people they employed in the last 3 years has been employed by the federal government. I mean,
which we should, as citizens, never allow them to count the federal employees with the contributors.
Yeah. And you're talking about, Jeff, about us not trusting the government. And here's how bad I've gotten. I no longer trust the numbers from the Congressional Budget Office or the Bureau. I don't trust them anymore. I think they're fucking lying too. It's terrible.
We witnessed that back a couple of years ago when ADP's number came out. It comes out on Thursday, and then the real employment number comes out on Friday for the previous month. And ADP was off by threefold.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, hold on. ADP does like 80% of the payrolls for employers in the U.S.
Would you quickly explain on how this works? Yeah, that's the reason the number is so important. They basically have a monopoly. Basically,
Yeah. You can. ADP is their number is better than the government because they have both publicly traded companies and privately held companies, from single, solopreneurs up to a family-owned business that has 1,500 employees to Target, and although they do payroll for the majority of people that are paid in the U.S. There's there's Paychecks and Ultimate, and there's a bunch of SAP. There's a bunch of other ones that do. ADP has the best mix.
That's right.
They have the best mix because they have the majority of the small employers under 1,000. And so when they put their numbers out, it's never been off more than like 3% between the two. They put out their number. The next day, the government puts their number out. It's about a 3% variance. This time they were off by like 65%. And none of the talking heads said, well, what the hell happened there? We can't trust any of these numbers the government's given us. Why would ADP lie about it?
Right.
That doesn't help them at all.
No, it literally, they have no motivation to lie. None.
They hit a button, it prints the report, they send it to the news people, and the news people regurgitate it.
Right. Or supposedly, they're supposed to.
So, yeah, you should doubt this government. And I don't care if it's your city you live in, the state you live in, but especially this federal government. It's out of control. You're going to hear all these Republicans saying, well, now we can finally do something. When Trump came in office, the first 2 years, he owned all three branches of the government, or all three houses.
Yeah.
The presidency, the Senate, and the House. And he had Mitch McConnell, that turd is still there. And then you had the choker, the little puke from Wisconsin, Paul Ryan. He's a policy wonk. Yeah, in his bedroom.
No, seriously, what is that guy's problem? Well, I don't understand. I never understood where the hell he's coming
he was a rich kid from Wisconsin. His family had a big construction business. I'm sure they were on government contracts and shit like that. I'm guessing at that, but he first of all, Uncle Joe had him choked up in the one vice president debate that those two idiots had to sit in on. He kept drinking water. He had the old dry throat.
Yeah.
But yeah, they couldn't get any of this shit. They couldn't get rid of Obamacare. They couldn't get rid of any of that government regulation that Trump really wanted to take those reins off of the, that's the thing. The EPA does something. It costs you to have a contractor come out because they can't leave dust, or they got to watch for lead paint. All those things. It's $150 here. It's $200 there. And people shout at the service company, and it's like, well, if we don't do this, the EPA is going to come after us, not you. So either pay the $200 for the test, or we're not doing your work.
Yeah. And
the homeowner is pissed off. Well, call your senator. Tell him to get rid of the frickin' EPA bullshit.
I don't know. The whole thing, it's almost scary to me. It's like,
it's scary because it's like, how does it fix? Well, it's painful, but two, they still can't take the will out of the American worker. They're going to get up on Monday after the fucking clock rolls forward, and they're all discombobulated. For some reason, we need to roll the clock forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there was a reason. There was a reason for it 60 years ago. There was.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Not anymore.
That's 60 years ago. What's around that's still 60?
That's right. No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's why it exists.
Our government and fucking daylight savings time. Those two things.
Yeah, you're right.
So, it's just like that. Why can't that simple shit be rectified?
You think?
We don't
I
need
know.
it. It's hard on the work. It's hard on your body and you. But does the government care? No, because their first thing is get your ass to work and get your taxes to us.
Yeah, well, I don't have to tell you this. I mean, there's a lot of liberals who think that maybe that business should be made harder. You know that.
Which is fine. Just remember, you got to work somewhere, even if
Yeah.
you're a liberal puke.
Uh-huh.
So,
All right, Jeffrey, that's great. So I'm depressed now.
no, you can't be. Trump kicked ass.
Yeah, he did. He did.
And so the bully might get a shot at the White House again, and that's all you can ask for.
Right. And you touched on this earlier, and I didn't want to talk about this, about the fact that the title of my show on Monday was "Will Trump fuck this up?" Because the thing is, he still could. I mean, right now
he's for sure. Yeah, he's not a savior.
No,
he's not a savior. He just has one. He's successful in business because he took his punches. Right.
Yeah.
He failed. He did all sorts of shit that he wouldn't do again. Became wildly successful. People say, "Well, how do you measure that?" You don't have a fucking plane with your name on it, so shut up and sit down, you thumb sucker.
Right. And I don't care. You know, if he is, one of his biographers said he started with $40 million. He still turned it into $5 billion. You try that.
I mean, right. You know, right. Go write the story about the guy that got 40 million and is now on the street living in a fucking homeless shelter.
Or just smoking crack cocaine.
You know? Yeah. And so that's the thing with Trump is this. He knows he's got a short window. He's only got 4 years. He knows how they brought all these mutts to him to have him work in his administration. He knows what they did to General, I forget his name, Flynn. And how they tortured him.
Oh man, that's that's despicable.
Yeah.
The guy was
so half his brain, which he can do, is going to be going with, this is how we solve this economic shit. And his other half of his brain is going to go, you know, we got to unwind all this shit that's in the system that these people put in place to watch me behind my back, all that other stuff that has to get flushed out of our government.
But the real amazing thing right now is Trump is in an unusual position. He's not the underdog. He's actually ahead. So the thing is, I mean, really, now last night he's been playing this pretty good so far. You know, he's kind of like, you know, most people saying, well, just shut the fuck up. You don't have to, you know, call people names. You're actually ahead. Just, you know, let this guy just screw up. And so far, he seems to be doing that more or less. He's
right. I mean, if he just ignores Nikki Haley, she goes away on her own. He doesn't have to attack her.
Right. And she basically did, you know, and he didn't really attack her.
She brings no value to the ticket. Because first of all, how many Democrats voted in the primaries for her? It's a false number, right? Could be 50%.
The estimate today is that yesterday, 70% of the votes she got across the country were Democrats.
Yep.
She has no Republican support.
Right. And all the never Trumpers that sent her money, you weren't going to get them anyways. So and Trump doesn't waste his time on that shit. You know, he didn't build a 3-story apartment building. He built a fucking 80-story apartment next to a casino in Vegas or New Jersey. I mean, but again, he's human. So don't look at him as a savior. Looking at him as, if he gets a second swing at it, probably will be some good stuff. And if it isn't, it's not Joe Biden. So it's a win either way.
Right. That's what I think too. Exactly. I'm going to put the CONK News front page on the screen right now.
Thank you.
There we are. There it is. And this is in real time. So now this is really interesting. And this is from Hot Air on the top left corner. Democratic panic. A Trump conviction is the only way Biden can win. And now this is interesting too, Tim, because now, according to the latest polling, there's people are saying that they don't even care if he's convicted. I mean, before it looked like if he was convicted of anything, he was going to lose like 12 points in votes. Now people are saying they don't even care about that.
Well, and you thank Fannie Willis for that.
Yeah,
because,
it's true.
I mean, seriously, it's like she concocted this thing that she was going after him, and she wasn't even playing fair behind the scenes with her own personal life, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, Bragg in New York, same thing. They trumped up a bunch of and massaged a bunch of laws to make it favorable to go after them. And in the end, Americans don't like shit that's unfair. They don't like
No.
boys playing girls' sports. I mean,
Right.
they may not say anything about it, but in their core, they know that's bullshit.
Well, they're starting to say something about it too, and that's good. And
Yes.
the thing is, here's the deal. I don't know about you. If some guy wants to walk around wearing a dress, I'm okay with that.
Right.
It's a victimless crime, but it isn't if you're playing sports. That's the problem.
Right. Or if you're targeting little kids.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it turns out that like 70% of the transgender men, or how, I don't know, whatever you call it, in prisons are in there for sex crimes. It's like, shit. I don't know. So you want to explain to people how this page works, or should I do that? Oh, look, it turned over. Look at that.
Yep, there you go. That's the magic of the CONK.
Yeah.
So yeah,
right.
CONK, we aggregate this news from there. You got Hot Air up in the left corner, and the center column is 100% Fed Up. Another great publication.
Yeah.
So we just aggregate off of their sites. We don't touch any of the headlines. We're not like the big guys where they think it's cute to rewrite the headline. This is what the author of the story wrote as the headline, or whoever writes the headlines. This is their picture. And these aggregate about every 3 hours. And we go out there and we grab the most recent stuff. And so if you're into news, conservative news, and that's why I watch Joe in the morning Joe. And then I watch CONK. As a news junkie, I go there because I've made it because it simplifies my life. I'm not running all over. And we have some really, really strong conservative publications and some middle of the road.
Yeah. And you're right. If you're a news junkie, you can't do better than this. Yeah.
And news is a commodity. Let's face it. News is a commodity. How do you consume that commodity without wasting a bunch of time? You go to conk.com.
And also, it's free. This is free. There's that too.
Yes. Yep. And you'll run into a paywall here or there. You click on, and they've got, you can only get so many articles. And that's all fine. They need to, these people are struggling for advertising dollars.
Right.
And so if you come to CONK and you subscribe to some place, we have other news that you can find at our place. But yeah, support these people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great publication you have here, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it as always. Now,
right.
I brought this up. You and Jennifer are coming on 2 weeks from tonight, and that happens to be our 100th show.
Yeah,
and I'm really
awesome.
glad, because as our sponsor, I was going to invite you on anyway, but you're already going to be there. That's
perfect.
Terrific.
Yeah, we'll have the other half of the dynamic duo, the brains of the operation.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught this. I'm having her on next week to talk about nutrition. She wrote an article, and it was a fantastic article about how the government, once again, the government's so fucking behind, how the government, the food pyramid's full of shit. And it's like, gee, it's just unbelievable. And then she talks about, did you read this, her story? Yeah. She talks about going to the doctor, and it's like, oh my God. It's like, Jesus Christ. And I don't know about you. I think women have it even worse than men when it comes to this.
For sure. They just have a lot more stuff going on in their body.
Yeah, right. And so they need a lot more experts, and you know how experts are. I mean, God, I guess Joe Scarborough's an expert. I think he's only an expert at stuffing his co-host. That's what I think. He's great at that.
It's enjoyable early morning TV.
You're brave, man.
And I'm covering it for you. You don't you wouldn't be up that early, and two,
you're right. I'm not up that early. You wouldn't
touch it for 15 seconds. You'd be right past it.
That's right. That's correct. Thank you.
I'm sitting in the slop for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
Great to see you.
Yeah, always great to see you too. So
Thanks
we'll see you in a couple weeks, and I'm looking forward to that too. So
all right.
You take care, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Jeff Meyer, the CEO and publisher of CONK News. Fantastic publication, CONK.com. Once again, it's free. So like you said, you might run into an occasional paywall of the people who are pumping the articles in. But yeah, I subscribe to quite a few of these services because I don't want them to go away. I subscribe to the Town Hall, the Salem Media Properties. It's like they're just fantastic. So we got 3 people from On Air come on air regularly. Jennifer's on Red State. Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, she's on Red State. I think we might have a couple more. I've been talking to a couple other people before too. It's great commentary. They're basically doing literally what I'm trying to do here, and that is like the news. Like Jeff said, the news is a commodity. It's in the promo, the intro to the show. News is a commodity. You can get the news anywhere, but you need the news put into context, and then you get the people on the left who are basically just lying about this. So the problem isn't just that they just lie, although they do. They're bald-faced lies. Some of it is that they claim statistics and they take them completely out of context. The statistics are actually real, just like Jeff was talking about unemployment figures. Technically they're real. So in that sense, technically they aren't lies. But if they're not put into context, they don't make any sense. So, anyway, so this is a C block of the show. And so before we go, I usually deal with some science or paranormal news or something like that. And today I want to talk about a guy named Michael Schratt. He's a writer for on airplanes and aircraft and aerodynamic stuff for various publications. Now, before I started doing this show, when I was doing my other podcast of CONK News, he had agreed to come on there, and I've been trying to get a hold of him since, and I haven't been able to. But he's a really interesting guy because he's been doing this forever now. Now, Schratt is actually saying now, he said that he's pretty certain now, he's proved it to himself anyway, that the government does have, that we are flying anti-gravity spacecraft. And he said he's claimed the same thing I've been talking about, except he's in a better position to know about the fact that we have this technology by reverse engineering crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft, and we have reverse engineered it, and we've built stuff. And he says now, this is the part I want to talk to him about. He said that basically the breakthrough we made was in October 1953, and he says that the reason he's quite convinced of that is because he said if you look at the peer review scientific material about anti-gravity, it basically suddenly stops that month and it's never picked up again. In other words, he says there's no research to do because we already know how to do it. So it's a moot point, which is the reason there are no scientific studies or papers done on this anymore, which is a really interesting thing. My thing is, I was telling my friend about this, and people don't believe this, but you can go to Barnes and Noble and read this. So Ronald Reagan's presidential diaries were published, and this is quite a few years ago now. So he left office in 89, and I can't remember, about 2000, I think they published his diaries. And there's an entry from, I think it's October, it's from 1981, because I know it's his first year in office. And he talks about having a top secret, this is in his diary, he's writing this himself, a top secret uh, uh, meeting with military personnel about highly classified spacecraft. And he says in his diary entry, he said, this is October 1991, that we have a spacecraft that holds 300 people. And at that time, the publicly known spacecraft that was the largest one was Skylab, and Skylab held 8 people. And so there's been this rumor, and Schratt has talked about this too, about, I don't know if this is the actual name of this vehicle. It's called the TR-3B, and supposedly it is a very large triangular spacecraft. It's the triangle that everybody sees everywhere. I've seen one, big as day, flew right over my car, stopped the car and got out, watched it. The This is about 2010, maybe. Unfortunately, I can't remember the year. It's terrible. I can't. But anyway, now Schrad makes a very interesting point, and he says people wonder why all these spacecraft, these extraterrestrials, are crashing all these vehicles, and he says it's not them. We're crashing the vehicles that we're building as prototypes. That's what he says. There are crashes, not theirs. Now there are a few acknowledged crashes because that's where we got the technology from. And you got to understand, if you're flying 37 light years across the galaxy, you're gonna, things go wrong. So, but Heath says that the majority of the crashed spacecraft people talk about are actually ours. And he also said what I've said for quite a while: those Tic Tac things flying around the Nimitz and the Roosevelt, those aren't extraterrestrial; those are ours. And I think that too. I've thought that for a long time. The only problem with that is that there's a counter narrative to this, and that is that we actually haven't figured we have these things. That's pretty much a given at this point, that we have these crash extraterrestrial spacecraft, but that we can't we've never figured them out, and that the government is basically embarrassed to admit that. But I lean toward what Shrek's point of view. Also, the fact he's really highly connected in the defense industry, and also he talks about in this article. The article's at the Daily Star in the UK. He talks about in this article about gotta collect my thoughts for a second. Gotta figure out what I'm talking about. What am I talking? Jim? What are you talking about? You're talking about he talks about, oh, Jesus Christ, God Almighty, what the hell? Like, why do you watch this? Yeah, Jeff's really handsome. I know that's true, and I'm glad he comes on, because the thing is, I need somebody to save me. You know, what was Schratt talking about? He was talking about, God, it's terrible. I can't remember. I'm going to put a link um to this article on our show blog at jimandknight.com for you to read, so that maybe you can figure out what the point I was trying to say was. It's terrible. It's just terrible. Okay, tomorrow night, State of the Union panel, the pooper panel, they're coming on. They're right after the State of the Union, which is probably going to be around 10 p.m. Central. Okay, now, like Jeff and I were talking, usually the State of the Union goes a little over an hour. Because of, frankly, Biden's frailty, we're expecting it to be 45 minutes or less. So, but we're going on. We're not waiting for the Republican response. We're coming on with a panel right after the State of the Union's done. That's tomorrow night. Monday night, we don't have a guest. It's Monologue Monday, a 3-day weekend. I got too much news to talk about. Tuesday, all right. What do we have again? I gotta look. Tuesday is Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. She's talking about the nutrition stuff. Wednesday, David Strom, who Jeff was talking about on Hot Air. He's coming on. Great guy. Great guy. It's like one of the, we can talk forever. It's terrible. And we don't have a guest so far on Thursday, but I'm working on that. I think I think I have somebody, but I don't want to announce it yet. And next Monday, that's kind of a week from this coming Monday, I'm taking off. So that's the schedule here, short term. Yeah, so a week from 2 weeks from tonight, uh, uh, March 21st is going to be our 100th show, and we made it because I don't know. Yeah, so I'll we'll tell you this. I don't know the date yet, but Michael Harrison, uh, the publisher of Talkers Magazine, he's been on this show twice before. He's coming on to celebrate our 100th show, but he can't come on that night, so he's probably going to come on sometime next week. That's what it looks like, either Monday or Wednesday or Thursday. So, but we're not sure. But anyway, he agreed to do it. I was very kind of him, because he's a very important guy. And his band Gun Hill Road has a new music video out. We're going to talk about that. So, folks, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank Jeff Meyer for joining us. Always, guys, just very insightful as hell. Love it, love it, love it. And tomorrow night, we got the State of the Union. Like I said, so we're coming on basically an hour early, if not even earlier than that. So I want to thank you for watching again. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. And good night to you. Something I want to, before I go here, I just want to really quickly. People have asked me on this sign off I have, is Uncle Donnie Donald Trump? No, he isn't. He's a relative of mine. So no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Good night, Uncle Donnie. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Take care.